If you watch the Raiders and Vikings game, I just want to say I'm sorry. I know Mark Davis doesn't have the balls to sit up here and say Raider Nation deserves better. I don't know if Antonio Pierce is going to have the cojones to say Raider Nation deserves better. But you know what? After a bye week, you had 2 weeks to be able to prepare, and that's what you put out onto the field. We're going to talk about Aidan O'Connell today. We're going to talk about Antonio Pierce today. But let's get one thing straight. Aidan O'Connell will never be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And after tonight, I don't know if Antonio Pierce is built to be a head coach in the NFL. Las Vegas needs to make a lot of corrections. Bo Hardegree was disgraceful yet again. No shocker there. Josh McDaniels decided to go out and get Jimmy Garoppolo, Brian Hoyer, and Aidan O'Connell. It just goes to show how much of a brain-dead loser that guy is. Because what Josh McDaniels did this offseason is the reason why the Raiders' offense is just an absolute joke to watch. You need to go out. You need to be able to draft Jaden Daniels. You need to be able to go out and draft Caleb Williams. You need to be able to go out and draft Drake May. To me, it's the quarterback position. You have way too much talent on the offensive side of the football to be this bad. And I've done a lot of Raiders games here for a long time. You losing 3-0 has got to be one of the most biggest eye rolls I've ever seen. I don't know what this offense needs to be able to do. I know that you got into scoring position one time. Hunter Renfrow fumbled the football, which I said it last week. People got mad at me for. Hunter Renfrow will not be a member of this Las Vegas Raiders team. You can book it. I will bet thousands of dollars on it that Hunter Renfrow will not be a member of the Las Vegas Raiders. The guy runs scared the entire time. Aidan was bad. Josh Jacobs ended up getting hurt. Maxx Crosby played the entire game injured. I almost feel bad for Mad Max. I feel bad for the entire defense. You played about as great of a game defensively as you could have possibly asked for, and it's just because of this just cancer that is McDaniels, the cancer that they brought into that offense. It was a brutal game, man. I don't have much reaction to say besides that. I mean, you got to be able to look at this game and say, we had 2 weeks to be able to prepare, and that's what you put on the field. Like, I know there's a lot of people that want Antonio Pierce to be the head coach. I know there's a lot of people that were supporting for him. After watching that, it's really tough to say Antonio Pierce deserves to be the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. It really is, man. So here's my question. Who should be the Raiders' starting quarterback next season? Do you go out and do you trade for a Justin Fields? Do you go out and try to trade for a Kyler Murray? Do you try to sign a free agent quarterback? I don't think that that's the answer. Or do you go to the draft? Do you look at a Michael Penix Jr.? Do you potentially draft a J.J. McCarthy? To me, there's 3 names and 3 names only that if I'm the Raiders, I am looking at. Because after watching today's game, I don't see how anybody could have any confidence in the entire world that you're going to beat the Chargers. I don't see how you could have any confidence you're going to beat the Chiefs. You're going to beat the Colts. You're going to beat the Broncos. After watching today's game, you're going to finish with 9 wins. You're going to be a 5-12 football team. You're going to probably be top 7 in the draft, and you're going to have an opportunity to get Drake May, Caleb Williams, or Jaden Daniels. And if you got to trade a few draft assets to be able to do it, you got to go up and you got to get a franchise quarterback. Because I know when people say that I hate on Aidan O'Connell, I don't hate on any player. I am a realist type of person. The reason why that this show has grown to the ability that it's grown is because my entire career, I tell you how it is. Yes, I thought the Raiders were going to draft Aidan because I just felt like I could read Josh McDaniels better than anybody, and I knew what McDaniels was. I knew that he was a fraud, and I knew he was going to try to draft Aidan because he had a lot of very similar characteristics of a guy like Tom Brady. But here's the thing. Aidan's not a top 32 quarterback. When you ask a QB that doesn't have the skill set to go out there and compete on a daily basis, you're just going to be exposed, and that's what happened today. You were exposed. Like, what Antonio Pierce, Bo Hardegree really have to consider, what this entire team has to consider is, what do we do next week on a short week, Thursday Night Football against the Chargers that I don't know if they're going to have Justin Herbert. And, you know, I say all this crazy stuff, and what's the craziest thing that I'm going to say is this. If the Raiders win their next 4 games, I know, far-fetched. If they win their next 4 games, there's a 50% chance that they'll make the playoffs. Do I think they're going to make the playoffs? No, I do not think that. However, though, there is still a chance that they make the playoffs. Like, the biggest question is, do you go with Aidan O'Connell or do you roll with Jimmy Garoppolo in the next week? It's going to be something that we talk about on our Overreaction Monday show tomorrow morning when that thing ends up dropping. But, like, that was a disgraceful game on the offensive side of the football. I mean, I'm heartbroken. I'm heartbroken because you got a guy like Maxx Crosby who goes out there, plays his freaking heart out, proves that he's the defensive player of the year. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Maxx, to me, is the best player on defense. Like, he just shows it time and time again. Like, you know that he wasn't 100% out there. He almost missed the Chiefs game. He almost missed this game, but he said, as long as I got a pulse, man, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to play. Like, the Raiders now have to have a conversation. Do you shut down Maxx Crosby? Because as much as I want to see Mad Max out there, if your offense is going to have that type of production, I'm not trying to risk Maxx Crosby's career. I'm not trying to risk Maxx Crosby's life. And here's the hard part that Champ Kelly and Antonio Pierce got to make. Like, if you want to be a head coach, you want to be a GM in the NFL, you got to make those tough decisions. And, like, realistically, the conversation that needs to be had right now is, do you shut down Maxx Crosby for the remainder of the season because of that septic arthritis that is limb-threatening? It is life-threatening. And I know Crosby is a football player, but Crosby is also a man. Crosby is also a son. Crosby is also a father. Crosby is also a husband. And you got to start considering about all that other stuff, because as far as I'm concerned, what I saw on the offensive side of the football today was absolutely offensive. So should the Raiders shut down Maxx Crosby for the remainder of the season? I want you to type P for player, type S for shut him down. I said it, and I'm going to stick to my original statement on this. As long as the Raiders have a shot to make the playoffs, I think you have to play them. When you're making millions and millions and millions of dollars and you're the face of the franchise, your job is expected to play. If doctors clear him to play, he should play. As soon as that percentage goes down to 0, then I think you shut him down for the season. And if it ends up being the mathematical possibility that the Raiders have a 0% chance to make the playoffs, you shut him down. But if you still have a 1% chance, I think you got to continue to put him out there. Let's go to Nick. We really need to get a head coach. Hope Jim Harbaugh high up on the list. I mean, I do think Harbaugh is going to be high up on the list. But a lot of the people that I talked to before this game happened, I mean, Maxx Crosby, said that I want Antonio Pierce to be my head coach. I know Mark Davis, Antonio Pierce, and Maxx Crosby, they all had dinner over the weekend, and a lot of the people that I talked to, it kind of sounded like Pierce was going to get the job no matter what. I'll tell you this, if your offense plays the way that it did today and you go 2-7 as an interim head coach, I don't see how you could possibly hire Antonio Pierce, and if you do, it's another slap in the face of Raider Nation. It's another bad decision that Mark Davis has made. Carlos, people actually thought AOC was going to be good. I think it's sad. I think people thought AOC was going to be good because of how bad Brian Hoyer and Jimmy Garoppolo were. I get how the nation is dedicated, but I agree here with Tri-Van. There's nothing else I can say besides sorry. Like, tweet at the Raiders, tell them that you want them to draft a quarterback. That's the way that this team needs to go, because they have talent. They obviously have a good defense. Like, defense is playing well. You got to keep Patrick Graham, but you got to go and you got to try to find yourself a quarterback, man. Carolyn, bench AOC. This is sickening. It's going to have to be talked about. Like, and I know how upset a lot of people are, right? I know how upset the nation is, and I know some people are saying it's Jim Harbaugh time. I don't know if Harbaugh's going to come to the Raiders, dude. Like, if I'm Harbaugh, I want a lot of money, and Mark Davis, the amount of money that he's already paid McDaniels, John Gruden, like, they might have to go a little bit of a cheaper route. And if I'm Harbaugh, there's probably better opportunities out there like Chicago. Chicago's going to have the opportunity to have the number 1 overall pick. Why not take that route instead of going to the Las Vegas Raiders? That's all I'm saying. If you want to get started with today's sponsor, go get started with Game Time and last-minute tickets. It's the best place on the internet to get tickets out there. And whether you're looking for an NFL, maybe you're looking for a Raiders game. I don't even know if the Raiders deserve to be in the NFL after watching that game. You can get tickets to concerts, comedy. If you're like, you know what, Mitch, I've seen enough comedy watching the Raiders offense. I'm good on that. There's another great deal that you can do. You can actually find tickets for events under $50. That link's going to be available to all y'all down in the comments and down in the description. Again, obviously, terms apply. But download the Game Time app, $20 off with code RaidersChat. And it's very important that you use code RaidersChat, or else you're not going to get $20 off, and then Game Time's never going to know that we ended up sending you. But to me, I've used Game Time to get tickets for my dad, my fiance's dad. I've used tickets to be able to go to a bunch of different events. If I trust it for my dad and my father-in-law, I promise you should trust it too for the holidays. Let's go to Search I. Keep AP as coach. Draft 2 quarterbacks in 2024. I mean, no disrespect, Search I. I think this is a horrible idea. I don't see why you would draft 2 quarterbacks. Like, Aidan's going to be the backup. Whoever you draft is going to be your starting quarterback, and then you're still going to compete with Aidan, but why would you want to keep Antonio Pierce right now? Like, I'm not saying that it's an impossible area that we could go to, but for you to say that the Raiders should keep Antonio Pierce after what you saw today, I mean, you can make a legitimate argument. This was the worst coached game the Raiders have had all season. It's a legitimate argument. Like, And I'm not going to sit up here and scream and shout because I know that this is the team that Pierce was given. I know that it's the team that, Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels built, so it's kind of hard to really be like, man, that's all on AP. But I do think you get 2 weeks to be able to prepare. And for you to have that poor of a performance on the offensive side of the football, that's just inexcusable to me, man. Like, it's inexcusable. And I'm curious how you guys think of this one right here. Yes or no? Do you want Antonio Pierce to be the head coach next year? From what I've seen so far, I do not. Like, I am rooting for it. I think there's a difference between saying I don't want Antonio Pierce to be the head coach from what I saw, and I'm rooting for AP to be the head coach. Like, everybody amongst the nation should be rooting for AP to be the head coach, because if they do, that means the Raiders are playing better football. It means that the Raiders are improving. Like, have the Raiders improved? Have they improved since Josh McDaniels? In those first 2 weeks, yes, they showed signs of improvement against a bad Giants team, against a bad Jets team. But then after that, the offense, to me, hasn't improved. You were bad against Miami. It's the worst game the Raiders have had offensively was against the Dolphins. Then you were bad against Kansas City. And then what I saw tonight was offensive. Bo Hardegree has just lost his ability to ever be an offensive coordinator in the NFL. Bo Hardegree, you're terrible. I mean, if the Raiders don't fire Bo Hardegree, then I'm telling you this right now, if I'm a Raider fan, I'm like, why do you even want me to go to a game? I know they're not gonna, but disgraceful. I'll always be a Raider, but dang, this sucks. I'm always going to be a Raider too, man. And, like, the frustration, don't ever get it twisted. It's win, lose, or tie, Raider Nation till I die. But watching a game like this, it's tough. Just end the show, Mitch. Louise, here's the problem, man. I ain't ending it. We still got a Jim Plunkett jersey giveaway to do, which we will do. And I do this show because I need to be able to vent with y'all just as much as y'all need to be able to vent with me. We're going to give this away at the very end of today's show. I got a 50-50 raffle. Somebody's going to go home with over $300 today. But if you're looking for free videos every single day, if the Raiders suck, I promise you this, Jeremy Chugs and I, we will not. We're going to be live tomorrow. We're also going to be live on Tuesday, a little overreaction Monday. Subscribe. I promise you tomorrow's show is going to be one that you do not want to miss. Let's go to Rocky. This game is some straight-up bull. This game was some shit, I know that. PG at the game, disgusted. I mean, imagine paying all that money to go to the game. Like, that's why I tell people, like, there's no chance the Raiders are getting my money. Like, there's no chance I'm paying money to go watch the Raiders. And I know that Antonio Pierce wanted the nation to show out, but I would ask Antonio Pierce, are you going to refund me the $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 that I just spent to go watch the Raiders when I could just stay at home? I'll tell you what, during the holidays, I'd much rather do that. Blue Gas, Mitch, remember when you kept typing up AOC over Jimmy G? I did. Because Jimmy Garoppolo is not good. Like, if you're trying to say Jimmy Garoppolo wins this game, I don't know if he does, Blue Gas. Like, and if you're trying to be like, oh, like, you're dumb, Mitch, for saying that Aidan O'Connell over Jimmy G, I think it's also not just so much like quarterback-to-quarterback comparison. It's what's best for the longevity. Like, you know Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be the future of your team. Like, you know that Jimmy G is a guy that's never going to be your guy. So you have to be able to figure out what you have in Aidan O'Connell, and you have to be able to figure out if AOC can be the quarterback of your future. Like, Jimmy G's not a top 32 quarterback. Aidan O'Connell's not a top 32 quarterback. Brian Hoyer's not a top 60 quarterback. And Josh McDaniels decided to pick all three of those guys and put them on your team. If you think Jimmy Garoppolo wins this game, maybe he does. But to me, again, they're playing for the long term, not the short term. Raider cool. Game was so sad. I'm in for the jersey. Yes, you are. Aaron, first time scoring 0 in Raiders history. I think Nick Mullins helping us get our franchise quarterback. Maybe he is. And I hope the Raiders find their franchise guy. 3-0, pathetic for both teams. It was a horrible football game. It was bad from top to bottom. There's no excuses from either side. Both offenses were just... O'Connell said the loss is on him. I have to execute better. I'm not going to 100% say the loss is on him. Hunter Renfrow deserves blame. The entire offense deserves blame. But, Aidan, I mean, you just unfortunately proved to the entire NFL, and you just proved that you're going to be a backup your entire life. Like, you just cost everybody, millions of dollars. I'm going to go cry in the shower. Oscar, I feel that. Alex just texted me. She goes, you got to get home. Laquan, let's look on the bright side. We fired McDaniels. Hell yeah, man. We moved on from McDaniels. Justin Abgen, today's MVP, embarrassing. Thank you for getting a picture. A horse in his beer. Cheers to Mitch and Chugs for all that you do for the nation. Everyone, be well and take care. Well, please don't leave. I mean, you still have a shot to at least win a signed Jim Plunkett jersey. But my show for our post-game reaction, I mean, it's this. The Raiders' offense is an embarrassment. This is the worst Raiders' offense that I have seen in a very, very long time. If there's anybody out there that says, oh, the Raiders should have kept Derek Carr, you might just be as dumb as Josh McDaniels. They should have never done that. Carr's been terrible. You had an opportunity to bring in an Aaron Rodgers. You had an opportunity maybe to get a Lamar Jackson. You had an opportunity to draft a QB, and you decided that you should roll with Jimmy Garoppolo, Brian Hoyer, and Aidan O'Connell. Like, I know Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler weren't a part of this team right now, but they're also partly responsible for this loss. Like, they have to be. I'm so upset right now, and I'm upset because this is a game that you have to win. Like, 3-0 is the loss that you just sustained. And what's more frustrating is the Raiders, they play the Chargers on Thursday Night Football, and I don't know if Justin Herbert's going to play. Like, that's a game that you could have easily won. You should be 7-7 at the absolute worst after Thursday Night Football. Instead, you're 5-8, and yeah, you still have a chance to make the playoffs, but if I'm the Raiders after watching that game, you just tank and you try to get a quarterback. I don't do it because I'm never team tank, but man, oh man, that was brutal. What you guys are going to see the rest for Raider Nation is going to be, we're going to be live Monday and Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. Then Chugs and I are going to be live on Thursday, and the jersey giveaway we have on Thursday, I think it's the coolest jersey giveaway that we have ever done here on the Raiders Report, signed by a current Raiders player that I know y'all are going to absolutely love. And then, I don't know what game we end up doing on Sunday. It's still TBD. It might even be on Saturday if the Raiders beat the Chargers. I don't know. It's something I got to talk about with all the bosses. But if you guys have an idea of what game you want to watch, please let us know. That's all the time I have for y'all tonight. Get some sleep. Take a few drinks. Take a few shots. Brutal game. Raiders lose 3-0 against the Minnesota Vikings.